The game is mine. The game is mine. The game is mine.
Yeah, I told you I got help. It was a food desert, you know. It was a food desert, real. Not just a short time ago. We could thank a few people like Kevin Conwell. He helped to bring Save a Lot up the street, you know. But they ain't calling it Save a Lot anymore, you know. But I don't know. They say they ain't saving a whole lot no more. But you know, I guess it ain't Save a Lot no more. I don't know. You know, but big shout to Kevin Conwell. But we got another ball player right here, not literally, but you know, in the development field right here on the development court. Mr. Authur Fayne, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you,
man?
Man?
I'm doing fine, man.
I'm loving this show, man.
Oh, thank you very much,
Y'all
man.
got it going down in the hood.
In the hood, man.
Hey, T-show.
Speaking of the hood, man, what? You got the Eastside Market going on.
Yep, we got the Eastside Market, man. You got to know that I came from the cloth of the late Fannie Lewis. So I started out at 14 years old working with Fannie, and we started to do the Huff neighborhood where I grew up at. And after developing all the housing, we always had a challenge of trying to find the commercial side.
Right.
And a few years ago, Bill Patman said to me that there was some money at the state. Then Jeff Johnson said, Arthur, you traveling the world, you're going to China, you're going to Europe. What are you doing back in the neighborhood? I said, Cleveland have a tendency to not love you back.
Yeah.
He said, take a look at the Eastside Market. So Mr. Austin from Neon and I came together. We looked at the Eastside Market. We said, wait a minute, this could be a catalyst for some economic development that can really spur jobs and bring and eradicate the food desert. Because you know, as I know, it's sad to say this, that there are people that live in the neighborhood that had to get on a bus to go buy a banana.
Yeah.
They had to get on a bus to go buy a banana. So our thought is that, hey, we wanted to be able to help people. How can we do that? The best way to do that is put our money where our mouth is.
Right.
And so we came back and put together this $7.5 million development. So y'all see it as a market, but it's more than a market. You have the market that is a grocery store, but you also got a community room. You got a demonstration kitchen, and then you have a health and wellness. You heard of FUBU, right?
Yes.
For us, by us?
Yes.
This is developed by Black folks. You got a Black architect. You got a Black developer and owner, and myself and Neon. Then you got Vale Scott. You remember Vale's on the circle?
Yeah, Vale on the show.
Vale is going to be the one that's going to run our demonstration kitchen, teach you how to cook the foods that and use the vegetables to cook healthy food that we're selling in the grocery store. That's right.
Well, big shout to Vale Scott because she's been doing that since Famiko.
Oh, she has been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Then we have we got some of the councilmen that's got behind us, and they really want to rally.
Like
with
who?
us. Absolutely. Anthony Harrison is one. When he was at the county council, he gave $750,000.
Oh,
yes, Kevin Conwell, your council.
Oh,
then Bashir is on board with us, and Bashir is going to do some big things with us because now he's saying, wait a minute, while the Eastside Market is not in Huff, but we know you from Huff, Arthur. So we're coming over there to support you, and we want you to help us to provide healthy food for the resident. Not only do we provide healthy foods on the sales side, but we donate about $10,000 worth of food so far every month to the community.
What, to like food banks and stuff
like that? Food banks, and we wanted to get right to the people, so we go to the people that's next to the people. We go to churches that's like the University Church of Christ, and we give away tons of food that we normally would be throwing away. We said, no, wait a minute. Let's give it to the church. Bashir, he got a food bank. We're going to do the same thing for Kevin. We're going to do the same thing for Mike Polensik.
You got a relationship with Jeff Johnson also, right?
Jeff Johnson, yeah, we do have a relationship.
Was he instrumental in helping
Jeff Johnson was very instrumental in doing this because Jeff was the one that came to us, and I got to get honor where honor is due. Jeff came to us and said, hey, y'all really need to concentrate on the neighborhood, because he was the councilman at the time of the Eastside Market neighborhood at the time we started this. And Jeff really supported it. Yeah. He legislated for it, and he helped to rally the troops, and I got a lot of love for him. But then the mayor stepped up. We ran into some issues, and I known Frank for a long time, and as you know, he was real good friends of Fannie when they was in council. But we ran into this issue of when we first started out wanting to do this market, we started out with a $3.7 million budget.
You had how much of a budget?
$3.7 million.
Okay.
And it ended up that this particular market, because of the renovation and the things that was going on underneath the market, we was $2 million over budget.
Yeah.
And so Frank said, wait a minute. And he talked to me and said, you know what? I'm going to help.
Let me ask you a question, Arthur, because I got to be real frank with you. First of all, let me ask you this question. Are you familiar with the West Side Market?
I'm familiar with the market. Yes, I am.
Okay. A lot of my constituents and friends, we kind of thought the Eastside Market was going to be like the West Side Market, where you had individual vendors, marketing their services, their foods.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between the Eastside Market and the West Side Market, and why so the difference?
Well, that is a great question, because as you know, first of all, we did a study, and the residents said they need a grocery store. As I said earlier, they had to get on the bus and go buy a banana, go buy an apple, go buy orange, go buy some squash. So that's hard for them. But let's break it down like this. We studied this thing. We went around the world. We didn't just stay in Cleveland. And when you look at the East Side Market and the West Side Market, as you know, the West Side Market is struggling. So if you got 20 vendors and they're competing against each other, 10 vendors are making money, and the other 10 is not making money. When you get into a market like that, it's called a triple net lease. For those that don't know, a triple net lease means that everybody that's in there pay their fair share of the lights, the utilities, the common areas, the taxes. So if you got 10 people making money and 10 not making money, what's going to happen to the 10 that's not making money?
Yeah, they're going to be ostracized.
They're going to leave. No, they're going to be ostracized. They're going to leave.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, now.
Yeah, because they all their output going on the
right.
bill.
So you had 20, right?
Yeah.
Now you got 10 left. So they got to now double their rent, double their taxes, double their utilities. So what's going to happen to them now? They were making money. What's going to happen to them?
Yeah, they're going to leave too.
They're going to leave too, and that's what happened to the East Side Market. That's what's happening to.
Oh, that's what happened to it before.
Well, there's a number of things happened to it. One of it is that there's spoilage and there's a smell in the air a stench that people didn't like. But the main thing is that they had started out with 40 vendors. They got down to 20, then they got down to 10, then they got down to 5. And the thing is, the last one left, leave the light on.
Yeah.
And that's the way it happened.
Well, at least we know the truth, because we never knew what happened with that.
You can't do that. I mean, one person can't pay for that total cost for making that thing
that's
go.
a great explanation now, because
so
that was a real question we had. That's great.
So when we look at it from our standpoint, me being a developer, bringing people together, the challenge of being a developer is that you got to work with the money people. You got to have a relationship with all of the politicians, all of the governments at every level, from the federal level down to the local level. Then you got to come back inside and work with your contractors, work with your architects, work with your developer. Your construction company. Work with all of those subcontractors.
Well, let me ask you another question. Okay, since it's not a vendor competition thing at the East Side Market, are you dealing with people that I'm asking because I need to know.
Yes.
Are you dealing with people that supplying fresh produce and straight from the farms and stuff like that, or what?
Well, because of the fact that the East Side Market per se is owned by the market is owned by the new Eastside Market LLC, which is comprised of Northeast Ohio Neighborhood Services for-profit company, CIS, and Business Development Concepts, my company. We are now able to, and then we have another minority owner out of Aurora at 10%. So we try to buy local, but at the end of the day, we buy from the vendors and the suppliers that's going to help us to be able to offer the best prices. Like right now, if you go up to the Eastside Market, if you've been there the last couple of days, we had a grand opening yesterday, and you saw lines outside of there because we're selling spare ribs 99 cents a pound.
Spare ribs.
I'm sure y'all heard about that.
Yeah.
Now, spare ribs at 99 cents a pound. If you go to Dave's, you're gonna get them at $1.99 a pound. If you go to Walmart, you're gonna get them at $1.79 a pound. So they say, how are y'all doing this?
Right.
But because with our suppliers, we have what you call marketing dollars that we're able to buy the cost down.
Okay.
To be able to sell them at 99 cents, we pay 62 cents. So we may be able to make 35 cents or something like that on it.
Well, if I'm getting it straight, it sounds like the owners are a combination of private investors and organizations like Neon. Now, how does that work? Because we know Neon is like federally funded. We had Karen Butler on the show. Is she involved too?
Karen Butler is involved, and Mr. Austin is over her. He's involved as well.
Okay.
So you got Neon is a federally qualified healthcare center, which means they get 30% of their dollars from the federal government. So what that means is that Neon looked at the disparity in health. See, physical health is only 10% of it. The rest of it is about environmental health.
Right.
Mental
That's
health.
what Karen spoke of.
And so when you start to talk about that, then it's not enough for Neon to just look at the physical body. And Neon is in what we call a decline in metropolis. That means that Cleveland is not growing, although the latest census coming out saying that they're stabilizing. Yeah. But that still means that Neon is now competing against those federally qualified FQHC lookalikes. When Obama came out with that plastic card, that means that Cleveland Clinic, University Hospital, and also Metro can now come into the community and do what we call community health. And that was really designed for the community health centers. Now they're tapping into that, and they're taking some of Neon's market share.
We've seen that happen.
But at the end of the day, what we've got Neon to do is expand their footprint and look at things from a different perspective. Neon has always talked about counseling and nutrition. We said, wait a minute, let's go a step further. Let's now open up a market where you can really start to concentrate on health and wellness and those kinds of things that help to eradicate those diseases like hypertension, high blood pressure, and things of that ilk.
Sure. Now, you talked about the difference between your Eastside Market and the West, and how it's not a vendor competition thing. Were there any other lessons you learned from the West Side Market that you applied to opening the Eastside Market?
Oh, yeah. It's about agreements and leases. So in order to make this thing happen, we had to really see, in order for a business to be successful, they got to do two things. They got to bring a lot of money in, and they got to not let a lot of money go out. Yeah. So what we did was that we brought in my nonprofit for 4 kids to lease out the demonstration kitchen and the community room. And Neon, while Neon has been the catalyst for this economic development on one hand, but they still have a lease to the building. And so we brought these teams together so that we can debt service the facility. Westside Market did it, but they did it with a lot of vendors, and we did it by bringing together a public-private partnership. Right. Having the city of Cleveland, petitioning the city of Cleveland to lease the building out to it for $1, and also give us 75% tax abatement. Right. So those are ways in which we are able to save money.
Well, Authur, I don't know if you know I'm quite sure you probably do, but right now, and especially in this community in the Glenvill area, there's an epidemic with people bringing in outdated or nearly outdated foods to the community. You read the back of the labels, and it's the expiration date that then already occurred a lot of times in these very stores up and down Superior, and then throughout Glenvill. A lot of times you go on the snack shelf, and those snacks are either about to expire, like in a couple days, or already have, and there's dust on it. We got to kind of wipe the dust off to see the date. How do you combat those things when you got the Eastside Market?
Well, those things are up to them. I can only do what we can do inside the Eastside Market, which means that we can use our staff to make sure we're looking at the shrinkage and the spoilage and the expiration dates to make sure that we're not selling that type of food. One thing about the Eastside Market is that we're able to have a lot of eyes on it because this is a pure economic development engine, in that we've hired 64 people to work at the market, 25 full-time and the others part-time. But it spurred other economic development opportunities. You have Capo's, the cheesesteak. He came to me and said, Arthur, y'all really gonna do the Eastside Market? I said, yes. So he opened up a shop and he hired 5 people. And for those in the audience, start to do the math. So you got 65 plus 5. Then we got a bank, because we opened up Eastside Market. They knew we was gonna open up Eastside Market. A bank came to the neighborhood. When do you have a bank coming to the neighborhood without redlining? They hired another 15 people. So now that's 20 plus our 64. Then we had another company called the Oak Street, which is our competitors, albeit because Neon is our partner. Yeah. That's our competitors. They're a healthcare company, although they specialize in senior citizens and servicing them. But they hired 30 more people. Yeah. So you got 20 plus 30. What is that? That's 50. Right. Then you got 64 that we hired. You got over 100 people that are hired and in the neighborhood, from the neighborhood, for us, by us, because we laid an anchor and said we're going to bring the market back.
Oh!
So That's pure economic development. So I can't speak for what the other stores are doing, but what I do know is the importance of what we're doing is so valuable, because so goes the Eastside Market, so goes 100 jobs.
Well, it seems like you're interested in providing good foods and, you know, holistic solutions. You're bringing in uh, uh, from Purple Oasis, Vel Scott. You know, so it seems like you're addressing these things. You know, tell me why you were traveling the world, as you say, China and these different places. Why even come back to the hood? Why even care?
Well, why? One, because I never left the hood.
Okay, you
Because
was just traveling.
I grew up in Huff. Well, let me give you some of my history so that those that don't know. When I was younger, my mother was an alcoholic and didn't know who my father was. And sisters and brothers, we all experimented with drugs.
Okay.
I met Fannie Lewis at the age of 14.
Okay.
Fannie Lewis brought me in, and most thought I was her son. She wanted to train me to take a place in city council.
Oh, you were that close with her.
Oh, I was more than close to her. Everybody that listened,
Prodigal son.
Right. So I graduated from college, came back and turned Thurgood Marshall around. Then we started as the director. At 21 years old, the youngest director that the city of Cleveland ever hired.
Oh, big.
Then we started to work with housing development. So we built over 1,000 houses in the Huff neighborhood. In fact, I even built one myself.
Did you experience the Huff riots? Not to get you up.
Well, I had a cousin that got killed. The only person that got killed in the Huff riot was on 66 and Lexington.
The only person that killed
Joyce Arnett. Yes.
Did that sit with you?
Well, I didn't know at the time because at 66 I was only 4 years old.
Okay.
But as I started to learn about the history of the riots and the thing that I did in Huff, I further learned the impact that the riot had in the not renovation, but the development or the declination of the Huff community.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we started to really speak out a lot about that. And that's really spurred the Renaissance. I know it spurred Fannie Lewis to do the things that she did.
Yeah.
So as we started to rebuild the Huff neighborhood, there was always this dichotomy of how can we do housing? What about the commercial development? So we never had the opportunity to do that. And Mrs. Lewis and I went to Neon in 2002 and said, hey, we need you to help us to rebuild the neighborhood, because they had a balance sheet of over $25 million. And we needed somebody that we can go to the banks and say, we can pay that loan.
Right.
Or go to an investor and say, we can invest with you. Right. So Neon came on board with us. And when Miss Lewis died in 2000,
was it because of their relationships with Miss Fannie?
It wasn't because of their relationship, because they didn't have a relationship. It was a relationship that I forged. You forged.
Oh, you were like the bridge.
I was the bridge.
Okay, yeah. Hero without recognition right here. That's alert.
Right. So Mr. Austin and Ms. Lewis and I came together. We started talking about the things that we was going to do. We did the plan to really rebuild a Huff neighborhood, brought in investors from around the world. And when she died, I went to Mr. Austin, who was the CEO and president of Neon, who's been there for 50 years, albeit. And I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, the Bible says, go into all of the world. So we started looking at projects around, not only in our neighborhood, but outside of our neighborhood, in China, in Europe. But it's always about charity beginning at home and spreading abroad. And that was the impetus for how we got to Glenvill.
Oh, but you never lost sight of the hood, and you came back and you helped to clear up a food desert in this community. And you did it without a lot of fanfare. But I got to be honest, though, Authur, you know, we came across some things. You were dealing with a few challenges as early as of last year.
That's right.
Where people wanted to tie you up in some questionable business dealings.
That's right.
To where you even had to pay restitution and a fine. Were you duped into this?
Well, like as I said to you, that there's no question that's left unturned. There was a situation where we wanted to help a person, and we met a person a few years ago that we were going to buy a building from.
Okay. And
buying that building from him, we found that we're still putting the deal together, and he got killed. And me and my partner said, wow, we felt sorry for his mother. And feeling sorry for his mother, we said, you know what, let's help her out. Let's still buy the building. So in buying the building, there were some things that happened between her and her nephew that we got caught up in. As you know, the building was only worth $40,000. We paid $150,000 for it.
Yeah.
And then I ended up having to pay restitution on top of that.
Wow.
So the bottom line is that no good deed go unpunished. But at the end of the day, it was our heart of wanting to help her, got caught up in something that You know, if there was a violation, if there was something that we were guilty of, we're guilty to our God.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's about, you know, she wanted to be able to have her. She couldn't come back to the neighborhood, and this is all public knowledge. She couldn't come. She wasn't ready to come back to the neighborhood because the killer was still out. And we tried to establish the identity and all of those things. But the prosecutors, they always do with black men. Said, wait a minute, how can you say that she signed something that she didn't sign? So at the end of the day, they charged us with bearing false witness, I call it. And her repentance to my God is what was most important.
Well, you got Jeff. He showed support to you there. How important and how real was that?
Well, that was really real because Jeff was the type of person, and he is the type of person that had been through this. I never been through this, although my family members have, but I never been through
Real trying for you.
It was very trying for me.
I mean, you overspent the building, and then you had to pay restitution.
I had to pay restitution again. But at the end of the day, it's really about continuing to keep it moving because there's a lot of people. Like I said, I mentioned to you about 100 some odd people that work for us.
True.
There are people that depend on me, and I did not want to bring negativity to them. And to me, it's like God will handle it. As long as I'm good with God, I'm okay.
Well, all the interested parties dealing with the Eastside Market seem to give favor to you and overlook that. So that says a lot. Can you speak to that?
Well, yeah, it does, and I'm really grateful that people know me, and they know my heart, and they know what I've done, not only through the Eastside Market, but I have a nonprofit called 4Kids. So for the last 20 years, I have been able to serve kids, and that's born out of a situation as well.
What's some of the things you do with the kids at the 4Kids?
Well, let me tell you how it originated, because this will really bring homage to what I'm talking about. In 1998, again, I was strung out on drugs. I walked around my house and I saw my 4 kids. And I said that I'm not only messing up my life, but I'm messing up the lives of my 4 kids. I dropped to my knees and prayed and asked the Lord, if you can rid me of these drugs, I will give my life to kids. And I started to give my life to kids. And what I found out is that people rather see food on their table than mine.
Yeah, that's how it usually be. Trust me, I know.
And I wanted to help kids. I thought everybody wanted to help kids. I found out they didn't. So when I went around looking for grants and donations, there were none.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I have a skill in real estate. Let me get involved in real estate so that I can donate funds back to our nonprofit. We don't accept government grants. And we work with kids all around the world.
Oh!
From Tanzania over to Hawaii, we've met with kids. We work with kids there, work with kids in Tanzania, work with kids in China, work with kids in Europe. And so the bottom line is that charity begins at home and spreads abroad. But here we have about 21 AAU teams. We not only teach them about basketball, we teach them about leadership. We teach them about diversity.
Oh, you have an AAU team.
Oh yeah. I coach.
And you coach, and you take those teams around the country, around the world?
We take them around the country.
Okay.
We take them around the country, and we've been doing this for years. So these are the things that really has gotten what I'm really about. So I got in real estate only so that I can help the young people.
Yeah.
And so in helping the young people, I need to be able to pay for those young people and pay for their expenses.
Oh!
We have kids that have got baptized. We got kids that their mothers work for us. We got kids whose mothers and families been given houses from us. So this is the real story about Authur Fayne.
Well, let me ask you, Authur, other than your faith and you dropping to your knees, what do you think helped you and help you to keep going, working for the kids and towards the kids? What is it that made you do this complete turnaround and get yourself together to where you want to be and be this great person that you are right now?
Well, I'll tell you something. One thing I've learned is that success is not final.
Yeah.
But the other side of that coin is that failure is not fatal.
Okay.
So when I grew up in the Huff neighborhood, my family, we've gone through a lot. And I understand the principalities of how to live in this world.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of ups and downs, twists and turnarounds. But I know that there's a lot of other Authur Faynes out there.
Yeah.
So if I can create a chain reaction that somehow, some way, when someone see me down on my luck or they see one of our kids down on their luck, they will help them. That's what keep me going, because I know that all the things, the good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Yeah. But you got to do good anyway.
Ain't that the truth, bro? Now you want people to come through them doors at the Eastside Market and support the market. How do you plan to galvanize the people to do just that?
Well, we plan to do it by offering fresh, quality food. We are not.
That's number one.
We're not a Save-A-Lot.
Bottom line, baby. This ain't Save a Lot.
We're not a Dollar General. You can
Okay.
save a lot at Save a Lot, but you're going to lose a lot in your health.
Okay.
So that's not who we are. We're not Dave's, and we're not Giant Eagle, and we're not Heinen's. But what we offer is a fresh place for people to come and buy fresh fruits. They're not used to it. So we're trying to change the mindsets of people to get them to understand that you can buy fresh fruit right in your neighborhood, the convenience. You asked for a grocery store that was owned by us. And so we offered that to them. Now we have a sale going on now, but like I said earlier, you can get you can get spare ribs for 99 cents a pound. But that's not going to be always. The worst thing we can have is a grand opening and a grand closing.
Yeah, right.
You've seen that happen before, right?
Right, yeah.
But it's right down the street. And man, I like that. You should have got 10% discount. And you know, and we look around and we do have a shopper of the day program where we walk around and we see people that's shopping and we put them out and say you get 10%. I'm gonna tell you something else about this store. Because this is a community store, we have the Glenville's valedictorian working at that store.
Whoa.
This year.
Wow.
And guess what? Next year's valedictorian's working there too. Okay. So what we've been able to do for her was that I talked to Councilman Harrison, who's a good friend of mine. And I told him about a story. The valedictorian at Glenvill, when she was 3 years old, her mother suffered from schizophrenia. And she went to live with her grandmother. At 7 years old, her grandmother died. Then she went to live with her aunt. Now she got 3 other brothers and sisters, and they were all split up. This girl persevered and still stayed on track. I think she represents the type of person and the type of business that we're trying to run. So I said this to Anthony. I said, well, he's like, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, I'll give her $1,000 scholarship. I said, I'll match you. I'll give her $1,000 too.
Wow.
So she got $2,000. And I'm not talking about all the other countless dollars that she has. So she got on stage yesterday at our grand opening and said, I appreciate the money, but I'm coming back to work in our neighborhood. She reminded me of me because growing up in Huff, because you got to be tough to live in Huff.
Yeah,
you know,
hey, that's no pun intended. You got to be tough to be in Huff, baby.
So I always wanted to get back to our neighborhood, and I can say that we successfully did that. But again, as Mr. Austin says to me, that, you know, the Bible says we got to go into all of the world. So we're going to all of the neighborhoods, wherever God may lead us, and we're going to do that. That's what keeps us going.